In a world with entirely too many shows about cars, this is another pointless automotive podcast.
Can you dig it? As Shaq once said. How are you, Chadwick?
That was from the Warriors.
Was it? But didn't Shaq also do that in Shazam? Or did
Way after the Warriors came out. From the
I
early 80s.
understand, but I find that Shaq's contribution to modern pop culture is greater with his production of Shazam.
Well, it's also argued that Shaq Fu predates regular Kung Fu. So, I mean, that's fair.
Shaq Fu was a brute. That's a game. I'm a sucker for bad video games.
It's bad, dude.
It's like almost unplayably bad.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Shaq Fu. There's got to be somebody who's done like a deep dive, like retrospective on Shaq Fu, and talk to some of the original like designers and animators and things like that. And it was, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We need to get them on the pod one day.
But I'm doing fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. Shaq Fu aside, what else are we going to discuss today, my friend? What were you thinking? You had some ideas bouncing around your brain, right?
Yeah. So we are, I don't know if we're purveyors of, but we certainly are into the more vintage. And I don't know if I'm using that in appropriate context, but in vintage automobile experiencing, whether it be driving, fixing, owning. We tend not to get our hands dirty with the new stuff, which you don't get your hands dirty with. So I don't know. That's a horrible phrasing, but we like these older cars. I kind of want to do a little like get in touch with our emotions, because we're not, we're not just robots here, guys. We're not just spewing the benefits of Galant VR4 ownership. We're not talking about how fun it is to spend hours doing timing belts. No, we have emotions too. And one of those is I want to talk about these older cars and how they've never lost that love and feeling.
No, I'm not going to sing.
Whoa. And that was the idea, right? Like, why do we put up with these cars other than our financial restraints? And truthfully, I think we still gravitate to these older cars, money, no object. So, Frank, I want you to kick us off. And I wanted to keep this, like, again, very loose, but just kind of like walk through some of the things you get to experience with these cars that we own that you just will not get. They can't package in a modern vehicle.
You know what? One thing I want to discuss that you don't get to experience in a vintage car, that you absolutely experience to varying degrees in a brand new car.
Working AC.
Depreciation.
Oh, snap.
Depreciation is something that, generally speaking,
yes,
you don't get hit with on a, say, 25 gear or older vehicle.
Not usually.
Not usually, unless you do something catastrophically dumb to your vehicle, right?
Challenge accepted.
Right, like if you decide you're going to chop you want to homebrew a convertible out of a car that never was a convertible. You get your Mark IV Supra and you're going to homebrew a convertible out of it. Bad idea. But that's, I mean, the amount of power that gives your dollar when it comes to spending on a classic car or a vintage car, whatever we're going to classify this, a not new car. It gives you so much more freedom because, in theory, if you get pushed into a position where you need to unload that car, assuming you bought it properly to begin with, you're not going to really lose your lunch. You might lose a few $1,000s, right? Especially if you use it. If you packed another 50,000 miles on a 100,000 mile car, and now it's a 150,000 mile car, that'll impact the value. But you add 1 mile on a brand new car over the course of 5 years, and then you sell it, you'll lose $25,000 just like that,
Yeah.
And so, that's not really a feature, but I think it gives people like you and I that's how we get in trouble, and we end up buying freaking cars under the guise of, I'm not burning money. If I was buying a new car, I would be burning money, but I'm parking my money, right? Like, hey, this car, I got it cheap. I bought this car for, say, $10,000, and I know in 2 years I can sell it for, worst case scenario, $9,500. Best case scenario, $15,000.
Right.
And then have fun with it and play with it and tinker and drive and get to have those experiences and take it on rallies and do all the things.
Yeah.
And so that is something that only is kind of a feature on these older cars. Like
100%.
Unless you're John Cena and you buy a brand new Ford GT because you get invited by Ford to do so, which I should say friend of the podcast and frequent listener John Cena. Unless you're, I might be making an assumption there.
Civic Type R enthusiast John Cena.
You know what? I have it on good authority that he actually drives like a John Cooper Works Mini.
It sounds about right. Yeah.
And I have it on good authority that he's been seen driving said he's doing the big guy small car thing, which I'm on board with. So good on you, John Cena. Or there was just an appearing empty Mini Cooper driving around, and you couldn't tell it was because it's John Cena.
You couldn't see him.
Yeah. Exactly. But I digress. So yeah, friend of the program, John Cena, and unless you are friend of the program, John Cena, you're not buying a brand new car and having it either appreciate or not depreciate. And so the amount of freedom and the just the availability of not like losing your lunch.
Yeah, immediately
on a car and it's funny because a lot of times people will be like, oh, I'm going to do the practical thing and just go buy a new car for my like daily driver. It's just like, well, is it really that practical just because it maybe has a warranty or like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'd rather do like I did with my Lexus LS and spend $8,500 and get a kind of max depreciated vehicle, even as a daily driver. I mean, that's more practical in my book.
And it's just fun. And it's fun, like gathering and collecting these old cars too. Like anyone can go to the dealership and pick out a new car. And you really don't have to put that much effort into it because they're all basically the same. But these old cars, and we'll get more into the details and the characteristics. But I shared a meme with my girl recently. It said the meme was me explaining to my wife why I'm bringing home another non-running car. And it had Forrest Gump saying, I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Can't say here.
It's kind of true though. But like for me, like, and I wanted to get to like that, obviously not losing money is a fantastic start to it. But like for me, like what I can't find in new cars and even like not even super new, but modernish cars is that mechanical interface that just, you know what I'm talking about? Like actual hydraulic steering feel or unassisted steering feel. Not existent anymore. Shifter feedback, manual shifting, which we already spoke about in a previous episode, becoming rare. Cars weighing more overall. You get that less like the car's playful personality. It's all engineered now. Like the steering feels fake. The suspension's like adjustable,
even the noises,
dampening.
like you're getting pumped in audio and
pumped in sound and things. And the NVH is so controlled. You don't have a sense of speed as much. Clunks, rattles, visceral mechanical stuff. That's my first point, man. And maybe that is more in tune with the shit boxes I tend to shepherd home. But for me, it's definitely that more overplayed analog statement, but just those mechanical things that you don't get, the smells even with a used car. You got to be burning some oil and coolant. Come on. How do I know this thing's running?
Yeah, exactly. If my eyes aren't watering at some point.
If it leaks oil, it has oil.
Yeah, that's how you know. I'm trying to think. It's funny because yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, to all of that. Just what is like if you were to go right now and say, okay, I'm going to go into the marketplace and I'm going to buy the most old school feeling car today for all the things that you just mentioned, the touch points, the interfaces, the feedback, what is it? I mean, is it
Miata?
like
Miata?
Maybe Miata. I was going to say maybe like the FT86 twins.
Yeah, maybe the GR86.
Yeah, whatever. They change the name every other year. I don't even know.
The Scion.
The Scion. That, I mean, maybe just like a straight up like Tacoma, like a Tacoma or 4Runner,
like a base, absolute base.
Yeah, like base, trim spec. That's kind of it though. I mean, there really isn't. Porsche is they I think they do a good job of disguising the
Yeah.
modern tech to feeling old tech, but it's not. It's there's still a gap there,
Yeah, you
and it
can't
just sucks that you just can't. It doesn't exist really out there anymore.
It's hard to recreate these things, nor would any modern like car want to recreate some of these things. Like you're
Well,
not going
some
to
of them, yeah.
yeah, you're not going to recreate the NVH stuff we spoke about. You're not going to
Spots in
recreate
your
like
driveway.
yeah, engine smells. Yeah, it occasionally has like a valve that ejects a little oil onto your driveway just to remind you.
Yeah, you get like a warning light on your dash that your oil spill reservoir is running low. You're like, oh man.
They're going to be on to me.
Exactly. Pour
But for
canola
me,
in it.
there's something about that, right? Like when you get in, and then I don't know. It's just you can't reproduce those feelings, man. Those are like real feels on these cars,
Right in the feels,
right
absolutely.
in the feels, and the pocketbook to fix those leaks. But anyway,
That's why you don't fix them.
fuck it.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting because there's so much. Think about how much money people spend on like charm and nostalgia, for all of the stuff that we're talking about, and then yet there's not like a real like way that that's replicated like in the marketplace today. And I mean, obviously some of those you kind of can't. And then what sucks is though when like a manufacturer makes an attempt and then it's like super obviously that it's just a ham-fisted attempt at nostalgia, and
Sure.
then you end up with the PT Cruiser and the SSR
Yeah, we spoke
and
about that resto designs
mhm.
or like retro designs that kind of came back in modern cars. PT Cruiser we mentioned, the Ford Thunderbird. Ugh.
You know what actually probably does it the best and probably is the most, and granted it's a three-wheeler, but a Morgan three-wheeler.
I was going to say Mini. I think the first iteration of the reimagined Mini Cooper was super successful.
Yeah, and I mean your standard Mini now, which they don't sell nearly as many as they used to, but like your standard spec two-door Mini now is,
Yeah.
fairly close to the plot. It
But
hasn't completely been lost at sea.
these R53s with the supercharger, that's a pretty
Yeah.
visceral experience for a
Mhm.
modernish car, and probably closest to the old Minis. Like, I mean, sure, you could get the non-supercharged one, the R50, whatever the model would be for that, but it's smaller. The new ones, I can't stand a four-door Mini Cooper. First off, it's just something
Yeah, it looks
about
weird. I think the sweet spot is like your generation Mini, the those Clubmans with the suicide door,
pretty cool. Yeah,
the
I
supercharger and the manual.
yeah, the Cooper S just does it because it's got the classic looks. It's the smallest. They
Yeah,
got
it's definitely the most tossable.
the bloat for sure.
The bloat, the scrote bloat.
The scope.
Um, but
How
like
about
I
you,
don't
man?
know.
What?
And it's funny because I'm trying to. I know we've briefly talked about some of this stuff in the past,
Mhm.
and so I don't want to completely recycle a bunch of that. Um, but one thing that I generally like, and I know we've mentioned it before, but it's hard to not mention it again. It's just the modern greenhouses in a lot of cars are
Mm,
just so. And I get it. Yeah, okay. If the car flips over on its roof, it can't crush you and your family. Ooh, whatever.
sure.
Um, but just the visibility and the added safety um around that, right? Like passive safety versus active safety is
Mm.
um is great. Like that little E30 sedan we had. Um, Visibility and that's wonderful. The
Oh,
greenhouse is fantastic.
it's all
Like
greenhouse.
it doesn't exist on a modern car.
Yeah. What the B pillars and A pillars are like an inch, if that, on that car. So it made outward visibility fantastic, and it makes the cabin feel so much larger than it actually is.
Hmm.
Modern cars really kind of feel more cramped on the smaller, like subcompact
To be
modern cars feel small.
to be fair, part of that cabin and the reason is because the whole the door panels and everything are like about 4 inches thick, from widest point to widest point.
That's
Um,
fair.
but yeah, like just having like excellent visibility. I remember don't have it anymore, but my wife at one point had a 2011 Kia Sportage, and the
Mm,
A pillars where they would come out, the blind spots, like you go on a twisty road, and I would find myself like leaning to the inside of the car to like be able to
it's
look around the
ridiculous. Yeah.
pillars coming around corners. It's just, I get it, but
Right.
It's something that it's profound if you haven't driven something older in a long time, and then you get in something with that kind of greenhouse and visibility, and you're like, oh, this is what like being able to see your surroundings looks like. And now it's been supplanted by, lane departure warnings and things that are looking for lines and
360 camera,
vibrating
because
mirrors.
you're no longer to have 360 eyesight around your vehicle.
Mhm. Yep.
That's the
Yeah.
trade-off, right?
No,
I'm,
it's interesting.
I'm with you. I did another like huge like overarching theme is non-cookie cutter design with these cars that we traffic in, like these 80s and 90s designs. It's so varied. And if you get on the road today, I think someone put a photo together or a poster with all the modern crossovers in white and the
Yeah.
side profiles, and
You
you
just change
literally
the lights
can't
and the bumper covers, and it's
you
like they're
literally
yeah.
can't tell what you're looking at, and it's just like everything looks the same. There's like monochromatic everything everywhere, and these fun colors from the 80s and 90s on these cars we're doing. It's just the palette is huge. It's like you
Yeah.
could go and like
I really miss
not
the palette.
not even similar, right? Like you could get an AW11 MR2, you could have an IROC Camaro, you could have a Volvo wagon from this period, and you park three of those next to each other, they all look completely different. Whereas today there is just not that breadth of variance in modern cars. So I think for me, that's what does it too. You can go after that crazy design. You can go after that cool color that you cannot find on a modern car. It's like every flavor you ever wanted, man. It's like a buffet.
Well, that's sort of my hope, my Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will, for the modern car, is that with a lot of these newer like EV manufacturers coming out of the woodwork, you end up with something like a Lucid Air that looks different. And you end up with something like a Rivian R1T that looks different. I mean, the
Sure.
profile might not be that different, but like they did a reasonable job of making it look different. You can get yellow with a green leather interior if you want. Like you can get kind of wacky.
Yeah.
There's whatever. Now it might be some of these might be vaporware, but like there's this whole canoe thing. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah.
And I
It's been for
still
a
want
while.
to, and this will take probably some homework on my end, but I still want to do like an a modern EV vaporware episode where all we do is we discuss like which of these ones are going to ever come to market, which are going to sell six, and which ones are pure vaporware.
Yeah.
And maybe we place bets. I think that could be a fun one. But that's my hope, is that like in this whole new EV rush and push, and whether you or I or the world agrees with the brave new EV world or not, my
If it
hope
even
is that at
comes.
least you have, right, exactly, but at least you have, hey, there's this new like breadth of manufacturers of all different shapes and sizes from all different thought bubbles, and at least we get some difference in styles, and people trying to like stand out, and that's how they try and make their place in the market, because that's been sorely missing for an extremely long time. With and whether that is our current market tastes as consumers, where we only want to buy cars that are black or white or several different shades of gray and silver and nothing else, and maybe one like unpalatably dark red or blue, and then
Right.
no other possible color options, or whether it's more of a function of like cafe restrictions and using computer and AI and wind tunnel design to be like, hey, like the need for economy and cafe restrictions have driven all the cars have to look the same because they all perform the same in a wind tunnel. I'm sure that's part of it.
But that
Um,
variety, man, I just randomly picked three vehicles from like the 80s. And I brought up a mid-engined rear-wheel drive little sports car. I pulled up a V8 rear-wheel drive muscle car, and I pulled up like a 5-cylinder front-wheel drive wagon. It's like
yeah,
there was so much variety you could get there, and it's just we're never going to go back to that,
yeah. I mean,
especially
it's all going to be either EVs or four-cylinder turbocharged hybrids,
yeah,
and
crossover
that's where
crossover
we're getting to.
platforms. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like
I
the
don't know.
variety, the sweet
Yeah, yeah.
variety.
I miss the variety, and that is part of the deal, because it's as I said, like, yeah, there's this whole like EV vaporware thing that might maybe bring some variety if any of it actually gets to market. But um, other than that, we're seeing, all kinds of nameplates and stuff disappear. or morph into something that they were never were. Your compact crossoverification of various nameplates and stuff. Go out, get yourself a Corolla Cross if you want.
Oddly still available. Weird.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I'm sure they're selling them. I got no doubt about that.
Remember the number? I think I brought the numbers up on that episode. It was like insanely low, but somehow still doing it.
Corolla Cross, baby.
Dude, so something we brought up on the Gaunt episode, the Gaunt VR4 episode, is the lower horsepower is still damn enjoyable. And like you brought up, modern cars, I don't know if you can get anything with really less than 200 horsepower. It feels like everything's north of that at this point, and 300 is kind of the medium. I'd say it's like the norm right now for newer cars.
Yeah, 280.
Yeah, and the ceiling is like with a much higher ceiling, right? There's lots of examples, way more than that. But there's a thing with these older cars with that lower horsepower is we can really, really exercise all the gears. There's no excessive speeding. We can push an old car faster, which is actually more exciting to me. Modern cars also feel so much more complacent and compliant when pushed, like cornering ability, like suspension technology, tires, hence your 924. Just pushing these older cars adds that extra element of danger. I don't know. The ceiling for top speed has definitely been lowered with these older cars, but the hitting those speeds and just like I said, winding them out is just so much more fun.
Yeah, no, it is, and it actually. I'm trying to think of a good. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. For the how the low horsepower stuff can be more exciting, and so as we did discuss, as I really ran into with driving this 924 on this rally I just went on a couple weeks ago, is it was far and away the lowest horsepower car. I mean, it was 110 in 1982. So it's call it 100 horsepower today. Let's say
its best day,
11%. It was a lot of fun to drive. It's manual steering. It's a 50-50 weight balance. Yes, the tires were hot garbage, which gave it a little bit of extra
pucker,
twinkle in my eye, and yeah, diamond creating in my pants. But the amount of fun with that car for the relative low dollar,
yes,
and having people, part of the enjoyment with that is not just the having to go full ass momentum car with it and having to spend like, we're going uphill for this section and being pinned on the floor for 25 full seconds. And everything that comes along with that, and kind of having to think outside the box a little bit and be a little bit more compared to something now where you're just mat this and mat that, and that car's got rear drums, and so you're trying not to boil the brakes off of them either.
Sure, yeah. And
so the amount of fun with that, and then also it's got this old charm to it, and it's the little engine that could charm to it, not just for like me as a driver, but for other people that were there on this event and being like, hey, the little car kept up and look at it go, hey, that did well, and da 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 da, and it just like brings smiles to other people's faces too, in addition to yours, versus if it was a Shelby GT350, which is a lovely car and a really good car to drive. But there's something about having success of bringing the rock to the knife fight instead of bringing a cannon to a knife fight. And you work for it, and you got a little sweat going, and I don't know, it's super enjoyable, and that really brought me back into the camp of low power car is the better car. I don't know, maybe I didn't illustrate that properly, but that's
no. It's kind of like an exclusivity thing without the bravado, right? Like you're driving a car that really stands out, but it's like the cheapest car there, and you're having the most fun, even though someone paid $100K more than you for their car they have there, and they're not having as much fun as you. And what I did was twist that around. Is the loving feeling I get from these older cars is I can work on them myself, and I'm the one bringing them back. So like, yeah, many of them have gone by the wayside, been trashed, junkyard, whatever, rotten away in someone's backyard. And bringing them back to be enjoyed again, that's it, man. When you get that car out on the road and you just absolutely stand out, like case in point, the 300ZX behind me. When's the last time you were just driving and saw a clean 300ZX motoring around? It's
let alone being hustled. I
right.
think that's part of the fun of this too. It's like when we went on the DWA rally, which nice sweatshirt there, my friend.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that like if we had just showed up and we're like, hey, we're here in our 2017 Carrera, it's like, okay, like that's fun to drive and you can have a good time doing it. Okay, great.
Wow.
But like the kind of pride in showing up with something that's like older and obscure and stuff that you just don't see hustled down roads ever, let alone on like a 3-day driving rally. I'd rather be part of the slower group, but that has the interesting thing and is taking the thing that never gets out and hustled, like say your 300ZX or an ACR Neon or
I got 11 of those cars that fit that description.
Whatever. Like there's all kinds of stuff where you're like, not only have I not seen one of those, I have not seen one of those driven in anger.
Yeah.
Ever.
In good working order.
That, and then like and hang out with our friends on the rally with the the 510 and like a Volvo Amazon and sort of that crew.
Right.
It just have just the amount of fun, outwards and inwards fun, is just it's lovely, and there's a point of pride in that that you just don't get with going out and buying a new whatever.
Yeah, well, if there was a modern like full-size truck SUV that had 120 horsepower, would it be fun? No, but every time I take my Isuzu Trooper out, my 88 Trooper, that 2.6 liter big block 4-cylinder with 5 truck gears that you literally shift 5 feet between gears, it's the most fun I have. It's got mechanical AC where you turn that little front window to you. My son hangs out the back.
Wings.
Yeah, it has the school. It's a 2-door, so it has the school bus sliding window. My son hangs out, loves it. It's such like it brings so much like fun and excitement to like a regular drive with that truck. It's so damn cool. I don't know. It's just you just can't match that. And like even if you carry those specs into a modern car, the magic's not there. It's driving this old jalopy that looks like a jalopy but runs great. I don't know. It's exclusivity, like I said, but like I honestly meant without the bravado. You're not bragging. Yeah. You're not like, oh, I own color pattern 1 of 75 made in that year. Nah.
Why do you got to come at C5 Corvette owner like
you're
that?
Gonna say Corvette guy. Those creepy dolls that you love.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna bring that up every time you bring up Corvettes. But it's something about that, man. It's just you got that weird car, and I know the ZX isn't like a rare car per se, but I can't remember the last time I saw a clean one just driving around.
No, you
like a clean one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Because even that car, like by modern standard, it's not terribly fast.
Not terribly
fast. In this era, it was an absolute
monster,
absolute terror.
It's modern car fast for sure. 300 horsepower and the amount of torque, dude. In torque. the way this car goes, that I haven't even talked about it this much on the podcast, but this 300ZX on the highway is smoother than most modern cars because I've done everything to it. So I mean, there's that. Brand new tires and alignment, but this has always been a good touring car. Like it's got a good amount of weight to it, good balance, but the power is still there for sure.
But like, yeah, it's funny because I mean, if that was released now with those specs, but it would be. But I mean, like right now, like if
at 100 horsepower, and it was
the new whatever
twin turbo V6, right?
But yeah, I don't know. It's like that's a very cool car. And it will always be a cool car unless you do something terrible to it. But just the amount of excitement that it is hustling something like that versus if you had something like that on paper that launched today, but it was a brand new car. You'd be like, oh, you bought the slow, underpowered, overweight, blah, 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 blah. Right. But because that car has, stood the test of time.
Sure.
And has the charm and that extra, not bravado. It's And that's not to say that you can't do the bravado thing with an older car, because you can, right?
You can. Muscle cars for sure, right?
Muscle cars, some of the more exotic European stuff, if you have your kind of, as you said, your special Porsche or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, 100%.
But a lot of those guys actually, they have the bravado car, but they don't have the bravado. Like if they're out there using it, they're the not bravado guy. If they're taking it on the rally, they're the not bravado guy. If it's sitting in a well lit garage that's like gets hand dusted every day, and they pay someone to move it around once a month for them, like, okay, that's different. But you're not seeing that car out in the wild. It's the ones that are out in the wild getting used where it's fun to see, and it's not just it's fun for other people to see, and I think a lot of that joy begets joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're out there using it and having fun, it other people will witness that, and it kind of it snowballs. And I know you like snowballs, but yeah, it's I don't know, I'm into it.
We've had a couple snowball fights between us, so I understand.
Oh boy. Really.
So I brought up another thing I did bring up was working on these cars because especially in the 90s, we do have some advanced tech on the scene. So there's way more sensors. I know the muscle car guys complain like early fuel injection is a very controversial topic. And these cars do have a blend of like vacuum actuated stuff. There's a lot of electronics. They can be pretty complicated, but for me, these things are timeless in the sense that they can be maintained. Aftermarket parts are available to replace the stuff that fails, and these were built to be worked on. I feel like modern cars are definitely like you need to come in for a software change, or the transmission needs to be reprogrammed.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
it
these
makes me feel like the old man that yells at cloud, because I feel like every 5 years, right? There's like the whole conversation of like, now these cars are completely impossible to work on, and then 5 years transpire, and then it's like, can you believe that you have to do X, Y, Z to even be able to do this on this car? And then another 5 year transpires, and it's just like when I was in high school, I graduated in 2002, and so that was like when the Bug-Eye WRX came into play, and like all of this stuff, and the E46 chassis BMW was like the new kid on the block. And those cars at the time were like, oh my god, they're so technologically advanced, and you can't do anything on them. And now those are like, oh, those were like the last old school BMWs, and the new ones are insane. Time marches forward, and so I wonder, but I always wonder where we are in that, like, because the stuff that's out now, I feel like is almost truly completely impossible to work on without $35,000 of scanner equipment and all kinds of weird stuff,
and specialized. So you got to lock yourself into that one make and model.
But will that change? Like in 15 years, will these now, like a 2023 M2, as gaudy and weird looking as it is that something that's going to be like, oh yeah, that's the easy to work on one? The new ones now, where like you have to have a weird monthly subscription on your Google brain implant or whatever, your Tesla Neuralink that several thousand lab monkeys died to make. Like, I don't know, like I'm trying to figure out. I always like try and do that, because it's like I remember back in the day, it was like, oh, that's fuel injected, you can't even work on that, it's impossible to work on fuel injected cars, you need a good old carburetor. And like now it's just like,
I mean,
now
I
it's
get
the other way
that.
around. It's like, I don't even want to work on a carburetor. Like, I'd rather just plug and play with some fuel injectors. But
I understand that. And your subscription thing, there's definitely a joke in there about BMW turn signals not working after you don't pay your subscription. Right, exactly. And no one gives a shit.
Oh, but my heated seats don't work anymore because I didn't pay enough Dogecoin to.
Yeah, they default to the cold. They default to AC seats, so you hurry up and pay for your heated seats. That's but yeah, I hear you, man. It's a sliding thing, but I do agree that automotive technology has more of an exponential curve to it. I don't think this has been a gradual thing. I don't think carbureted engines, I think that's fair, to like, direct, fuel injection was that big of a jump versus having something where you have an automatic transmission hooked to its own computer that needs to be programmed only at the dealership. I think that more restrictive stuff is what I'm talking about.
Or even beyond that, even when you have like Tesla, where like, oh, you're not a Tesla certified repair facility, we won't even sell you parts. Or like, oh, like, oh, you bought that salvage title vehicle? Well, we've blackballed it, and so now we're gonna brick it, so you can't even use it on the road anymore because it won't updates aren't supported, and so
or God
we won't
forbid
let you charge it.
these subscription services just randomly being turned off. Like, you've had your cable go out or something. You're driving and your your HVAC system shuts off and the screen or your nav screen goes blank.
Exactly. Please tap your credit card against the screen to yeah, it's just I don't know. And I hope there's some behind the scenes consumer protection stuff that's going on for some of this. I know there was the whole big thing with John Deere and the farmers and all that with um those kind of consumer protection stuff, and I know there's been some headway there because John Deere was not letting anyone do anything on any of their tractors.
Yeah, that was a big topic on Farmers Only. Remember that?
Yeah, well, I tend to spend most of my time on JDate, so I don't know. I'm curious.
That one?
Oh no, that's the Jewish only one is JDate, and I don't even know how many there are because there's Farmers Only, there's JDate, there's Christian Mingle.
Yeah, that's a wild one.
I don't know. There's got to be a bunch of super bizarro ones that we're not even up to speed on.
What do you think Christian Mingle's like? What's your favorite position? Missionary only. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I only do hole in the sheet. It's like the hole in the sheet thing. I don't know. There's got to be. Is there an all lady one and it's just called scissor with an R?
There's probably.
There's got to be yeah, because there's grinder.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just curious, how obscure does it get? Pescatarians only. I only eat fish, and it's then you go on a date and you accidentally slip up and order French fries, and it's you get booted from the site. They narc on you, and you get.
But what if there's car-related ones? Dating sites for I only drive naturally aspirated vehicles, and you show up with a turbo. They're like, you're a fucking disgrace.
Ooh, there has to be an automotive enthusiast dating site. Maybe we'll do some homework. We'll find that this exists and we'll get them to be our first sponsor.
Oh,
it'll be called I don't know what it would be called. See, I'm gonna look it up. Talk about something real quick while I Google this.
No, it definitely exists. It definitely exists.
Yes, let's see. Dating app.
Hey, I did want to hit some period features, and by period features, I mean features that absolutely will never return.
Ooh, I found it, by the way.
To modern vehicles. And what is the name? Well, don't plug it just in case they're it exists though. Just confirm or deny.
It exists. It's called Go Sporty. Meet motorsport singles. Thousands of like-minded singles join every day. All right. Well, there we go.
Is there water sports on there? Or?
Ooh. Oh, there's also hold on. Oh, this is Date My Ride. Is that a real thing? Okay. Did your dream date just pass you on the highway? Oh boy. I don't know. It's getting complicated. It's a slippery slope, and not in the good way.
You've already signed up for 2 of them.
Exactly. So
features that will never return that I actually personally enjoy are T-tops.
Yep.
Love them. Yep. Manual windows, I really like them versus electronic windows. They tend to last a lot longer.
Anything automatically breaks.
Yeah, and it will. Pop-up headlights.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Body cladding. Looking at you, yep. Pontiac.
Yep.
And comfortable padded seats.
Yeah, I still think there are some out there, but
not the same level.
The firmness has really cranked up, right? Gone are the big tufted top seats with the big buttons.
That's what I want. I want that, man.
The understuffed look with the ruffles.
I just don't think you can get that kind of seat anymore. I think those seats would cost way too much to create on the market today versus what they throw together, which are more sporting seats, right? Which are more. I don't know.
How about that as a feature? Just actual luxury, the actual soft, squishy luxury car.
You're talking
kind of
now. You're relegated to what Maybachs and Bentleys.
But even then, everything has to have 650 horsepower and has to have the Sport Plus mode and the paddle shifters on everything.
To be fair, a modern Bentley needs 600 horsepower because it weighs 6,000 pounds minimum.
True, but any whether it's an S class or like I think probably modern Volvo does it the best because like even like they have their like Polestar this and that, which is now its own brand, but like their I feel like their luxury focus is more actual luxury focused versus everything else. It's like it needs to be all things to all men. So like you have like a BMW 7 Series has like the M version. It's like you don't need it like
so wild.
And then you've got and all of them, every trim level down to the type has like the sport seats and like carbon fiber this and that and sport super sport handling mode and like what if I just want like this Lexus LS I just picked up, '06 LS 430. They made a sport trim level for those, but for the most part, that is a soft car.
Smooth V8.
Even new Cadillacs, there's no if I just want like the old school tufted seat, soft under all circumstances,
Eldorado,
no sporting pretenses car, that kind of doesn't exist anymore.
Does not.
Like even like Bentley and Rolls-Royce. I mean, Rolls-Royce is probably the closest. But A, you're spending $400,000, and B, those still have like sport mode and this and that. But if I just want to Buicks don't do that anymore. Cadillac doesn't do that anymore. Lexus kind of, but not really. I think Volvo is probably the closest.
Well, it's wild because you think back, you're like, a realtor back in the day, you'd have to move your clients around, not so much now. And you needed a nice car to show like your wealth and your accomplishments are reflected in the automobile you drive. S-Class was a perfect old realtor car. Now, does that realtor today? Yeah, not the realtor today driving like an S63S or something with like 600 horsepower. Yeah. Are they going to really tap into that throttle with like clients in the back seat? Probably
Escalade
not.
V. Yeah, like, I don't...
right? Blackwing. But just like the fact that, and I've seen normal people driving. I saw like this old lady, and like, God bless her if she's really getting into it, but an E63S has so much go power.
Oh yeah.
It's a very serious machine. And just that people buy that because they're used to buying the E-Class. They like the E-Class, they like the ergonomics, and it's good build quality in there. They're pretty comfy, pretty well built, but
well appointed.
You need that power? I don't think so.
No, well, I mean, I think that's part of it too, is how, there's so many people with more money than sense that all they'll want to do is they'll just go into the dealership and be like, oh, Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Yeah, I know those cars. What's your most expensive one? And they'll just buy that one. And so, that's I don't know. I miss the age of, and this is a long-winded way of me of saying this as a feature, but like the feature of a luxury car. That's it. Like
Agreed.
nothing else. And to add what you said there, like it's because even like the more basic like E-Class is still like there's still sport mode and sport plus and whatever.
It's not opulent, it's sporty still,
I want it to be soft, and then like soft plus, and then like glacier pace mode.
The counterpoint to that, though, my friend, is we've also spoke about this, is back in the day, man, you could get a base vehicle of just about anything, and base meant stripped down. It meant limited features. It meant way affordable. Today, bases are not bases anymore. You need to have a minimum like Apple CarPlay. You need to have heated seats, a sunroof, and like power everything. And it's just wild. And that's why the median price of a car is so much more expensive, right? But corners are being cut on materials. It's just, I think that's the trade-off, right? Because no one's going to settle for a base car like we used to in the back of the day, right? It's like my Eagle Summit. Someone drove that, one owner, 200,000 miles. It doesn't even have a place to mount a radio or speakers.
Yep.
That doesn't exist today. I don't even think work vans, you probably have to fight to get those removed.
Yeah, what's interesting is back in the day, like there's a very choice few where you can get relatively stripper model stuff with like, on a Nissan Versa, Mitsubishi Mirage, things like this.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is where you can get you can get a higher up vehicle, but with low spec. So you can get your 280 SEL Mercedes with, you know, hand crank windows, or your 300D, your 240D Mercedes diesel, hand crank windows, AC delete, cloth seats, no power anything, you know, manual steering in some cases.
Sure.
But now, like, you can't. What's the most basic full size car that you can get? I don't know. Like, probably maybe a Dodge Charger.
I was gonna say like an Ultima, probably too.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess an Ultima is no longer a midsize. I suppose that's a full size.
God, they're huge. Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's interesting. But even then, it's like it's gonna have power locks and windows and
Minimum.
and alloy wheels probably.
But it's not like
yeah,
the
you used to be able to
quality
get
of it.
like a full size car or whatever, and
you're going to get the tech. I think tech is getting more affordable too. So you're going to get a tech package with that car, but you're not going to get quality materials in like a base Ultima, right? It's going to be hard plastics. You're going to have very rigid seat.
Yeah, which I guess that kind of comes with it.
Yeah.
I
will trade that tech. I'll trade that tech for material quality, personally.
Yeah, I think what's tricky on the tech front is because backup cameras are now mandatory, and they have since I think it was 2018 that became mandatory.
Yeah, a lot of cars had them before that too, though.
You kind of have to have some sort of a screen because of that. And so
remember
it's like,
Ford?
well, we've already got the screen.
Ford integrated in the rear view mirror. I always thought that was such a cool thing, right?
Yeah, some of them, I think GM does a lot too, where like you flip like the day-night switch on the mirror, but instead of going day-night, you flip it and the whole entire mirror becomes a backup camera. Ooh, which is super cool. That's actually really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it's super clear, especially if you got like, you know, you're in your Escalade and it's all full of your 8 of your drunkest friends, and a bunch of crap in the back, and it's like you can't see out that thing anyways. You just flip that, now you've got perfect visibility.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Pretty cool. But like a lot of the tech stuff, it's like, yeah, because you had to have a mandatory backup camera. Well, now you have to have a screen for that backup camera, and which means it's like, okay, well now all our radio and touchscreen stuff is going to be there, and so it kind of got like implemented in, you know, against the will of a lot of probably manufacturers. But I don't know. It's all much to say that, you know, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of the more basic stuff is gone. A lot of the more simple features, like being able to see out of your car, are gone. Not being
take it for granted, right? Take it for granted.
Yep. And so, and who knows what's gonna, you know, what will be in 20 years? Will we be even older and more shitty about and missing and saying, oh man, I wish we just had simple Apple CarPlay anymore, and I don't have to like do like a retina scan to like play my playlist from, you know, whatever, the Walmart music cloud catalog or whatever it is. Like, I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of stuff that like we're taking for granted now. I don't know, things like buttons. I don't know.
Well,
instead
it's
of
funny.
Everything on a touch screen, it's like, boy, I want buttons.
We got away from switches and dials, went to like haptic feedback and these other touch sensitive options. And we've somehow migrated back because we realized, you know, paying attention to the road is important. And
who knew?
Looking over at your center stack and fucking around with a bunch of buttons is dangerous. So go figure, right? But
yeah,
I agree.
I always tend to fiddle with my my center stack.
You're often double clicking the mouse while you're going down the highway. What I'm talking about.
Do guys double click their? Anyways,
flicking the bean.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know. I think there's pills to that if you're only working with a bean. Anywho, I think it's about that time. For some quizzature. That's a feature, and perhaps in this automotive print ad that I'm going to be reading to you, my friend.
Oh, shut the lappy.
Maybe there will be some features. I don't know. I'm going to get it ready. You tell the people what we're working with here.
All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping by for our automotive print ad quiz game. It's a weekly occurrence here on the podcast, but we're going to go through an old periodical, something printed in a magazine, some other publication of the period. It's got to be 80s, 90s, early 2000s. That's our requirement. I'm going to guess this time. Frank's going to read us the ad, omitting anything that gives it away. I have 3 guesses. I can ask for help along the way after each unsuccessful guess. Hopefully there won't be too many. 10 minutes will be on the clock when Frank finishes reading the ad, and I hope I can get it. Frank,
I have faith.
What are we quizzing today? Let me get the 10 minutes ready. When you finish the ad, I will show that the 10-minute mark has started.
We need proof.
Read it to me, buddy.
Alrighty. So today we are looking at, it's a 2-pager. We're looking at the vehicle in question is in motion. It's a profile shot. The wheels are in the background and the foreground are motion blurred. It's looking relatively elegant in its travel. And then it's got its big tagline: the new blank. It's a 10. True to its legendary heritage, no other car offers this kind of performance at this kind of price. It starts with what Motor Trend magazine calls, quote, the best American designed engine on the market today, or even forecast for the foreseeable future. It's a revolutionary high output blank. A 4-cylinder engine with 4 valves to each cylinder and 2 overhead cams. It generates a mind-boggling 180 horsepower. With this kind of power at your fingertips, the transmission only comes one way. 5 speeds connected to your shifting hand. Grab my strong hand. And the blank.
Gotta get the giblets.
Exactly. And the blank. FE3 suspension. Specially tuned to keep you on track. And a rally gauge cluster to monitor the fun. All in all, it's a perfect 10. And we want to make sure you'll feel that way too. With the Blank Edge, it's a comprehensive ownership satisfaction program designed to make Blank the industry leader in total customer satisfaction. And it's standard on any blank you buy. To find out more about the blank, blank, there's a lot of blanks there.
A lot of breaks.
Just stop by your nearest blank dealer or simply call toll-free a number I actually can't read because there's letters involved in here. But you can only call Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that makes me think you get a real human, not a robot. That is the ad, my friend.
Wow. Okay, let me start the ad here. We have 10 minutes on the clock, my friend.
Bang, the evidence.
All right. So 180 horsepower.
Mind-boggling 180 horsepower.
Dual overhead cam engine. Did it say the displacement or did I miss that?
It did not say the displacement.
Okay,
it said
gotcha.
it's a 4-cylinder.
4-cylinder.
4 valves per head.
Okay.
Twin cam. Quote, the best American designed engine on the market today, or even forecast for the foreseeable future.
Is it because they maybe followed it up with a V6 that had less power?
I don't know.
Maybe.
So they have the crystal ball. I don't know.
Boy, 5-speed manual only, though.
That's right. 5-speed only.
That's interesting. Wow. So 180 horsepower dual overhead cam. It would have mentioned turbo or supercharging, I'm assuming. It didn't say front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, though. Did it?
Did not say front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. It just said 4 valves per cylinder, twin cam, 180 horsepower.
Only 5-speed manual. I'm reading that correctly. Okay.
Correct. Okay. Only 5-speed, connected to your shifting hand, no less.
Oh, that's a good place to have it connected.
Yeah. Not your baiting hand. Different hand.
Well, mix it up. The internet made me switch hands because the mouse.
Yeah, that's true. Science.
Let's see. Didn't say coupe or 4-door. So that's interesting. We left some stuff out. God, that's a lot of horsepower, though.
Mind-boggling, right?
I mean, kind of is. I mean, my first thought gravitates towards quad 4 because this sounds very quad 4-ish.
Okay.
American built. But what came with a quad 4 and only a manual? That's going to be my challenge. because a lot of those quad 4 cars had an automatic option. If that's the case, if that's what we're dealing with, boy, it's a 10. Said Motor Trend.
It's a 10, said the magazine. Motor Trend said, and I quote, the best American designed engine on the market today, or even forecast for the foreseeable future. That's what Motor Trend had to say.
Oh boy, dude, this is tough. Because even if it is a quad 4, there's so many applications. What did they stick a good quad 4 in at the end?
True to its legendary heritage.
Legendary. The engine or the vehicle?
It's up to you. That's
okay.
how it leads off. It's true to its legendary heritage. No other car offers this kind of performance at this kind of price.
Man, maybe it could be let's go with it's got to be a variant of this. Let's go with it's going to be late 80s, maybe 1990. First guess, Oldsmobile, I think it is. The Calais. Is it the Cutlass Calais? I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's go with that. Let's go with the Calais.
You have it down to all but the specific trim level.
It's not 454, is it? Or is it 464? I can't remember.
The quad 442.
That was close.
Yeah.
I said 445. I just was blanking.
No, the quad 442, which was
Yes.
the original Olds 442 was 4-barrel, 4 speeds, 2-door. It was their GM A body, right? So that was like your Chevelle or Buick Regal and Pontiac GTO and on and on and on. We are talking the 1990 Oldsmobile Cutlass Calais Quad 442.
442. And so you could there were a couple other Calais where you could get actually a manual and that same engine. It just didn't look exactly the same. There were some visual differences.
I believe it was the International Series. So they had the Calais. I was going to call it like the Calais, like the milkshake song. But it's the Calais International Series, which was basically the same. I think you can get it in an automatic as well, but manual, but like more luxury trim.
Yes.
So the 442 is more stripped, like cloth seats and stuff.
Different bumpers too. The 442
different bumpers, different trim. Yeah, like the quad 442 had like blackout like moldings around the side, like impact moldings, and a different spoiler. Versus the International Series, I think, was all color coded, and you got like a little mini flag on it somewhere or something weird.
That's right. That's right.
And so I want one of these cars.
Dude, cannot find them. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about stuff that doesn't exist. You could find one that isn't completely roached out by it. Like Jay Leno, I'm sure has one.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I feel like quad 4 cars in general are dismissed.
Yeah,
I think once that
quad 442, it's really fun.
I think it's hard to keep that engine going from what I've heard, and getting it past smog here in California is a very big challenge because it was pushed in its day. That's a lot of output for a 4-cylinder. And then, like I said at the beginning, GM, did they follow this with a V6 with less power? Yes, they did. So they had the
3.1?
The 3.1 that put out, I think, 155 at first, which is just
truly boat anchoring.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Not as revvy. Those are pretty rough. NVH was pretty high with the quad 4s, but give it to us, baby.
Yeah, I really want to spend time with one. I know that's like been that's been like our unofficial mascot of the pod here has been the quad 442, and neither of us have really spent any true appreciable time with one, and so we need to scour the earth.
It's hard, dude. Because most of those cars that did have the quad 4 also had that 3.1 option V6, and that's what they got a lot of times, and more times than not automatics. So that's what kicked me off, that it was the Calais version, because every one of them had an automatic option except for that one, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think the quad 442 was the only one that was manual only. And a quick cursory glance here on Facebook Marketplace just came up with a whole bunch of ATVs when you search quad 4. So yeah, the likelihood of finding one in good nick, let alone in existence at all in any condition is effectively none. So
all those cars looked good. Like the Grand Prix from that period with the Quad 4, also sharp looking cars.
Yeah, you had the Achieva, which they had like the hot one, I think, like the SCX, I think, the Achieva SCX.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
SCX, not SEX.
Yeah, it should have been.
Yeah, that would have been very Elon of them to try and pull that off. Anyways,
yay,
sir,
that was a fun one.
Good job.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you got that. You got to just like as physically possible. Like the trim level is kind of what made that car, because like otherwise it's just Calais. But like,
but how many people other than us are gonna guess Calais on their first guess with that ad?
Yeah, right. Yes.
We're despicable humans.
We are. You should stop listening to us immediately. If you choose to ignore our advice, which you should do, listeners and watchers, if you're checking us out on the YouTubes, first off, yeah, thanks for doing all of those things and continuing to play along and listen in. You can find us on the Instagram stuff or the aforementioned YouTube, another Pointless Automotive podcast, or APA podcast. How about you, Chadwick? If people want to see what nefarious activities you are up to, where can they do that?
I just want to point out to our fine listeners that you clearly have taken PCP today, Frank, because you're skipping Project Car Progress.
Oh,
this guy is wired.
I think I was just trying to dodge it. Is what I was trying to do, because I've made very little progress.
Yeah.
Outside of.
Well, take us home. What have you done? What are you shameful on your PCP this week?
Oh boy. Oh man. Shame is what I am. No, I've just been insanely busy. So between the new gig, helping out the guys at Cars and Bids behind the scenes a little bit, trying to reach out to people and sell some interesting stuff with them, that has begat a lot of extra stuff with me spending more time with other people's cars, taking pictures and doing video with it, which is great. It is fun, but it's left me no time to do anything other than come home, eat, sleep, wash, rinse, repeat. So I'm hoping to get my sea legs under me here a little bit, and being able to spend more time. I need to come to some sort of conclusion with my turbo car. My 924 turbo is still on jack stands. I'm not in the garage right now, so people can't see it in the background. But I need to figure out what I'm doing with that car, because
are you going to cut your loss? I feel like you're going to cut your losses with that car and just send it down the line, my friend.
It's so hard to cut. It's so hard to do that without being able to smog it and stuff.
I know, but like,
it's
you got to draw the line.
Difficult. Like, I feel like line. I don't know. I don't know if I can get any. I feel like I would need to get at least like $6,000 out of it to even. I would not even break even at this point with what I've got into it. But versus if I fix it, even then it's only worth like 10.
God forbid you smog it and then it breaks down on the way from smog and you're in it again for another project.
Yeah, I know. So I need to come to some sort of a conclusion on it. If I can just get it back on the ground and get it cleaned up and then have it be able to at least start and run, that'll be a start. And then I've got a decision to make. So I need to do that. I've been talking about imaging and getting the 41 Chevy truck sold. Right. I need to do that. It's raining here today, but weather's going to turn around, and so get that done, get that pushed into the hopper, and get that thing sold. It's worth at least 10. I think I'll probably get north of 12 for it if I do the auction route. So we'll see. Sure. I'd like to keep it in the Bay Area. It's been a long term California Bay Area truck. So if I can keep it there, that'd be great. But that's it. I mean, like I have not had hardly any time to do any kind of progress. How about you,
decisions. Sir? I can definitely meet you there on being busy. Totally agree with your statement, but somehow I've found some time to carve out, because I do have the overbearing burden. I have a lot of things I need to wrench on. Like, I think you have a lot of cars that don't necessarily need as much wrenching as I do.
Sure.
I have pure projects, right? So the Mini Cooper S, full engine bay maintenance day. I did valve cover gasket, which means removing that top mount intercooler because it's a supercharged one. So I got to deal with that. I did spark plugs, wires, coil pack, air filter. The air hose was ripped, so I got a replacement for that. And that's a big deal. Yeah. And just did all those things. I knocked it out. Really accessible, man. These cars, the hood, when the hood pops up, it takes the headlights with it. And the engine is like kind of sitting up exposed. fucking fantastic. So all that work was pretty much unhindered, you know, taking the intercooler off, whatever. And the car runs great, a little more responsive. It didn't have any issues, and it is low mileage, 86K on an 05.
Yeah, it's good.
Is exceptionally low. It's just, you know, 18-year-old parts.
Yep.
They were all OEM, had the original BMW spark plugs in it. So super cool to get the other quality NGKs, put a Delphi coil pack on it. Car's running.
What's the plan for it? You got competing hatchbacks now, yeah?
Yeah, I think I'm going to let this one go because the Volvo's more family friendly than the Cooper. That being said, like these R53 supercharged minis are fucking delightful to drive. It's like there's very few cars, and I just put Advan Fleava 300 treadwear tires on it. Mm-hmm. So it's got good grip. It's got the engines all being redone nicely, all the maintenance items. It's going to be a ripper. So it'll be a fun review, and I'll probably sell that. Someone's going to have like probably the best 2005 Mini Cooper S, like maintenance wise, when they come to get it. So, and the new clutch, OEM clutch done 500 miles ago.
Sweet.
This is insane. But I'll probably let it go in lieu of the Volvo. I think the Volvo is the better daily. Although the Mini Cooper S is very engaging. I mean, these cars are great, man. For a modern car, I don't think there's anything more engaging during that period.
What car makes the better noises?
Mini.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like the 5-cylinder, but I love the whine on those.
You got to uncork the 5-cylinder to get the sound from the factory. They're very refined. I think uncorked they'll be a lot closer, but as it currently is, that whine is delightful, dude.
Fine whine.
It's right there from the factory. So that's my PCP, man. And
cool.
Where you left off, yep, you're right. APA Podcast is where you can find us. And I can be found at Auto Obsessive Garage, rescues, restorations, and reviews. Check me out on the tubes, Instagram as well. And how about you, Frank? Your world-class, your world-beating photography.
Something like that. Something beating.
I'm beating it to it.
So. Yeah, hey, somebody has to. But yeah, straight up the photographer's garage on all the thingies. And then that's pretty much it. But you know, if you want the good stuff, you need to come here to another Pointless Automotive Podcast.
Yeah.
And then you know, spread the word. We're pretty much an extremely amateur, novice quality operation around here. And 100%. So you know, it's funny. It's like I see the numbers of like downloads and things like that, and we've managed to get some people. We've got some repeat listeners. Awesome. Whoever you are out there in Germany, keep doing what you're doing. I think you've listened to almost every single episode. There's a Kiwi. There's someone in England. So you know, we're not exactly Pitbull, but we're close to being Mr. Worldwide. So
we're global,
thank you all for that.
Yeah.
You know, tell everyone where you got terrible advice, which is from here. So spread the word. And thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, rate and review. Leave a little feedback for us. We like that. We'll accept 5-star reviews.
Yeah, give it. See, the trick is you give it 5 stars, and then in the comments you just roast the ever living hell out of us.
Hell yeah!
Just bring the hammer. That'll be ideal. So do the 5-star thing, but then just be like these idiots.
Yeah, don't test us on our quad 4 knowledge. We're getting pretty good at it.
Exactly. Yes. Oh man, I can't wait for our quad 4 build series. This is gonna be lovely.
Well, we need one. But anyway, again, thanks guys. As always, take care. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you laters.